Hey guys, welcome back to another Samurai video. Today we are doing a shop tour. You know, I've been at this for several years and I don't think I've given you a proper shop tour, and that's what all the cool kids on YouTube are doing, so come take a look at my shop. Beautiful weather protection, vintage aged tar paper. It's all the rage these days. Got my nice hollow core interior exterior door. It's even got a cat door, and I hate cats, so come on in. Got a bunch of projects underway, and I generally am not a tidy person in the shop, so this is actually really clean for me. If you take a look over here, we've got my disastrous blacksmithing metal fabrication station. I obviously have a lot of work to do organizing this. I'm going to be building some metal racks that will span across these windows and allow me to stack, leftover material, metal, that sort of stuff. I got to do a whole rack over that window to organize all my sanding belts for my new Wilmot Grinders Little Buddy. This is my Little Buddy belt sander. That thing is flipping awesome for so many different reasons. I got my bench grinder here. This is used to belong to my Opa, then my dad, and then it was passed down to me. So it's kind of got, that nostalgic love connection, even though it's not an especially great grinder. And then I just bought myself a little polisher, some felt wheels. I can't wait to try that thing out. Got my 2-burner propane forge set up here, which I also take that down, I set it on the shelf, and this is my welding table. I've got a little MIG Pack 15 Stinkin' Lincoln. Mig Welder, not especially great welder, but it does the job. Got my 100-pound propane tank, got my blue shield gas. This is actually a pretty sweet little setup for metalworking. I've got my anvil stand underneath there, so I can forge knives, and I've got a little bit more work to do, but it's a great little setup for someone like me who is only making tools and knives and that sort of stuff on the side. The majority of my work is woodworking, obviously. Just finished my glue up assembly table area with my convertible collapsible sawhorses underneath. So this is where I'm going to start doing all my laminations and glue ups. I put a nice coat of poly on here so the glue won't stick to it, and afterwards I can just kind of scrape the glue off. As I come into my shop, the way I set it up is I got this table here, or I use these little stools to stack all my wood on, right? As I bring the material in, stack it up either here or on the table, and then the first step of the process is to joint the wood, right? Take out any twist, cups, crowns, and straighten all the corners to 90 degrees. So that's all done on the joiner. This is my General International 8-inch joiner. If I was you, I would always go for an 8-inch joiner. It's way better than a 6-inch joiner because a lot of times the material you have is going to be wider than 6 inches, and having to rip beautiful wide boards down to fit on your joiner is kind of a pain in the ass. So this is always the first step of the process, to join all the wood, get it all straight, get all the corners at 90 degrees, and then off the joiner I come to the table saw, where I usually will rip the other rough edge of the board parallel to the edge that I just did on the joiner. So bringing everything off the joiner and going right onto the table saw is handy. And then I come off the table saw. From the table saw, I stack on my planer right here. So I'll stack all my wood up on my planer and then finish plane everything down to the thickness, final dimensions in the planer. And so that little system of coming in, joiner, table saw, planer, really works really well for me. I'm not having to spend a lot of time moving material back into different areas in order to get at my machines. So I don't know how your shop is configured, but just think about your workflow before you set up your machines, because if they're set up in the wrong areas of your shop, you're going to spend a lot of time moving material back and forth, right? It's a pain in the butt. Then this is where the magic happens, right here at my workbench. Most of you guys have probably seen the video for this, but once I've done everything on the planer, I set my wood, here on some sawhorses, and I start doing my layout and joinery cutting and all that sort of stuff, which I had to do with my hand tools or my router. So I don't have dust collection set up for my router. That's going to be the next phase of my shop completion, is to get a good dust collection set up, because everything is covered with router dust in here. So it's not the safest environment. I usually have to wear a respirator a lot of the time. So I'm hoping dust collection will clean up the air and the floor and every other surface in my shop. This is my newest addition to the Samurai workshop. And it is is it 8-inch? 6-inch. 6-inch wide oscillating belt sander, edge sander is what they call it. It's got this nice little round end here so that I can sand profiles and curves and that sort of stuff, as well as edging boards. And you can lift up this little end guard here. If you have longer material, run it right through. So this is a really handy machine that I snagged off my brother-in-law, who was getting rid of some of his tools. Still have to hook it up to my dust collection system. This is my closet, my dust collection / tool display closet with the iron fists of the samurai. So in here I've got my dual bag 220 volt general dust collector. Does a great job. Hopefully you want to upgrade it to the micron filters instead of these felt bags. And then the other stuff in here is just my electrical panel, and eventually I'm going to be putting a compressor in there as well. And I'm still in the process of running my air lines throughout my shop. So having a closet built around your dust collection cuts down on the noise significantly. I put some soundproof drywall in there. Not sure if that did a whole lot of extra, more than regular drywall would. Sure cost a lot more. But having this closet here also gives me space to put more tools, display stuff. I can build some shelves on this side, and I store a bunch of junk up on top. So I recommend building a dust collection closet around your dust collector, but you have to make sure that you leave airflow, because as that thing is sucking the air, that air has to escape the closet. So I've got some big vent holes up on top where the air can get out of the closet, right? From there, I've got my General International mortiser. This is a great little tool for removing a lot of the wood out of your mortises. It's not super accurate for repeatability. That's why I tend to be using my router with my joinery jig on there a lot more, but this is a great tool for cutting your square mortises. And from there, got my clamps set up. You can never have too many clamps. I actually run out of clamps a lot. I need to get some more. I got this is my 17-inch General International bandsaw. It's set up with a 110 volt, even though it can be converted to 220. I haven't really felt the need to have a 220 bandsaw, but I'm sure that would be handy. It's a great tool, but as far as like accuracy, bandsaws are just not very accurate tools. They're great for removing material, cutting curves and that sort of stuff, but I wouldn't say it's an absolutely necessary tool. Moving from the bandsaw is my Clutter Corner. This is where I just have a lot of my hand power tools, toolboxes, burls, junk wood that it's not junk wood, it's beautiful wood that I just don't know what I'm using it for yet. So this is just always a nightmare space for me. It's where I just throw all my tools and stuff that I haven't organized yet. Which is handy because then I can just rummage through it and always find everything because it's just strewn everywhere. I'm a strong advocate for never having drawers or cupboards with doors on it because that just makes finding stuff way harder. So F drawers. The other thing that I need to work out is where I can have a good spot to set up my miter saw stand. Right now I just kind of have it in the middle of my shop right here. Which is not a big deal because I can always just move it out of the way. This is the Dewalt 12-inch sliding compound miter saw. It's like the AK-47 of miter saws. It's not the best gun out there, but it's reliable, dependable. It's been around for ages, and it's indestructible. So I've used this thing for, 10 or 15 years now, and I got no complaints. It's a very accurate saw, but I'm sure there are fancier saws out there. Hey guys. For me, I already got a cheap general drill press. These things aren't very expensive, and they're not really that useful either. So if a drill press is on your to buy list and you're on a budget, just take the drill press off of there because it's not really that useful of a tool. The only thing I use it for is when I'm drilling through steel or when I'm using it to cut plugs for filling holes and that sort of stuff. The only other tool I got here is my general lathe. It's a big sucker. It's kind of got a weird power setup, and it's actually broken right now. I tried to put this bowl on here, and it stopped working. I checked all the breakers, don't know what's going on with it, so I think I've fried some circuitry or something inside. I got to get somebody to come fix it. So, lathe is a very fun tool. It's a very dangerous tool, kind of exciting to use. You never know when the tool is going to catch the wood or the wood's going to come flying at your face. So you feel kind of like you've been on a great adventure after you've turned a bowl on the lathe. And if you have all your fingers and you don't have gouges stuck in your neck when you're done, it's like win-win, right? So lathes are a ton of fun, but they're also dangerous, and they're only really good for one thing, making square things round. So, well, that's the end of my shop tour. Just want to give you guys a heads up. For everybody that was waiting for PayPal to be on the site in order to register for the school, PayPal is now available, and the school will be open for 24 more hours for registration. So this is your opportunity to get in, and the doors will be closing again. So time to go have a nap. Samurai out. Hey. You, me, staring contest now. Yeah, I win. I always win. You should probably subscribe now that I just own you in a staring contest. Yeah, definitely subscribe.